tomorrow's show on WCGO. Thanks for being with me this Sunday, like every Sunday. And of course, if you can't belly up to the dial in your local city, you can always listen in to WCGOradio.com. I want to thank everyone for being with me. And as you know, I like to start my Sunday show with the news. So it would be pretty hard to talk about anything today except social injustice. So we're going to get to social injustice in just about 2 seconds, because I could tell you about how Beyond Meat is taking over China, which is exciting. And I could tell you about how Good Catch Foods is opening a factory just for plant-based seafood in Ohio. Huge, big news, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go right to the subject of social injustice, what we all care about. And then I'm going to bring on my fabulous guest. So I'll start by saying that today, obviously, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, and we're going to fix this. We're going to do that. Not in this show, but we're fixing that in our time here on this planet and soon. But I'll also say that today is National Animal Rights Day, and they're linked because any injustice for any living sentient being is an injustice for us all. So as it is National Animal Rights Day, I'm going to read to you the brief Declaration of Animal Rights, which outlines 9 basic rights, beginning with all beings are created equal and have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of their happiness. The rights outline that freedoms, respectful treatment, and the acknowledgement that all living beings possess the same basic need in that they are sentient beings that feel pain, pleasure, and emotion. They declare that this Declaration of Animal Rights declares that all animals have the right and freedom to express their normal patterns of behavior, to reproduce, and to live in their natural environment, and are afforded protections by humans. That's animals. Okay. But today we're also talking about Black Lives Matter. But we're going to see how injustice on the plate and injustice for animals is injustice for Black people and other people as well. So let's get into it. Who wants to hear me talk anymore? Let's just get into it. I'm going to bring on my great guest, Gwenna Hunter. Please join us. So happy to have you here. You work with Vegan Outreach. We're going to hear what that's all about. And of course, Vegans of LA and Vegans of Los Angeles. And documentary filmmaker, Jasmine Leyva. She's here. Her movie, The Invisible Vegan, is a powerhouse movie. We're going to talk all about that. So thank you both for being with me.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
So glad that you're here. So glad that you're here. Okay. So I could talk a lot about social injustice, what we have at our hands and our fingertips, and what we're going to change is the injustice for Black Lives Matter. But I don't want to take the microphone. I want you guys to kick it off. Gwenna, I'll start with you. What would you personally like to say after this week, 10 days of social unrest?
Oh, that's a huge question. Yes. But one of the things that I definitely want to say that has shifted my emotions a bit. I go back and forth. It's been a very emotional past 2 weeks. I've felt rage, depression, anger, joy, sadness. I would say, I think it was Thursday, I went downtown to meet someone, and I ended up in the middle of a protest. And what I saw was so incredibly beautiful. And I saw so much unity and so much kindness and compassion and acknowledgement. I saw people taking care of each other. I saw people making sure that no one was thirsty, that everyone had ice cold water, that people were fed and no one wanted a dime. I saw people looking at me and saying, thank you. And people of all races walking with their fists in the air saying Black Lives Matter. There were probably more people that did not look like me than that did, that were down there saying Black Lives Matter. And I never in my lifetime thought I would see anything like that. So, it's so unfortunate, the circumstances that brought this about. But with George Floyd, he definitely did not get murdered in vain. So his death has sparked a huge shift on the planet. And I definitely believe as this world is evolving and we are creating this new world, like right now, it's going to be kinder. And, people, like, for me, and I think a lot of Black people do this, and people of color and just humans in general, but just keeping the focus on us. we suppress our emotions a lot. And I know when this first started, one of the things that really upset me were people kept saying, "Oh, don't be just keep peaceful. Why are you guys getting going out there?" And it's just like, if you eat toxic food all the time, it's going to manifest and come out of your body in some type of toxic way. So you can only keep pain in for so long, and this is what you get when that happens. But also, out of chaos, beauty can emerge and joy can emerge. And so I don't think that we're all the way into the rainbow yet, but I definitely believe that there's something beautiful coming out of this.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. And yet I still want to press you on some things because
Yes.
there is more work to be done, folks. But I first want, as you know, I first want to talk to Jasmine as well. Jasmine, come on in here. What would you like to say after this week, 10 days?
I would say, me and Gwenna were both in Los Angeles, and I witnessed, similar to Gwenna, I saw so many people come to the forefront for our cause. And it's beautiful because as, Black people, sometimes we feel like, oh, these atrocities against Black people, that's a Black problem. And when I went to when I went to the protest, I saw so many people kind of confirm, like, no, 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 you're a part of the human race. So this isn't just your problem anymore. We're all going to fight together so that doesn't happen. So I thought that was beautiful. And even in the vegan community, like, I'm so proud of even people like yourself to have us, let's give let's give people a platform so they can share their stories. I love it. And there's on the other side of that, I know I saw someone on my vegan timeline, they made a remark about George Floyd and his past. Like, let's not make him into a martyr. And they named all of the things that he's done wrong in his life, I guess, to say, okay, because he's made mistakes, that he's not worthy of this moment, or he wasn't worthy of life. And it was shocking to me because this person is a vegan. And I'm like, well, if there's a dog that bit someone before, are you not going to save that dog? If some of the pigs in the factory farms don't have the greatest personality and have knocked into other pigs, are they now not worthy of lives? So it's, I've seen the bad, but the takeaway has been the good.
It does seem that overwhelmingly this time is different. And I want to ask you guys about that. But before I ask you if you think that there's more chance of change now, because we've been here before, and that's what's, I think, is so angering for all of us. Hopefully not just Black people, for all of us, we have been here before.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is that what you're hearing from the non-Black community? Jasmine was saying, like, yeah, we're with you. Gwenna, are you hearing that too? That people are saying, like, yep, it's all of our fight.
Yes, I am. And you get the frustration when you do see the one person or the random person that that is like, nope, I'm not about that. And I'm at the point where I'm checking profiles. I'm looking at this like, don't ask me to be on your show. Don't ask me to help you. If you can't stand up for this, then we're just going to sever ties, because this is the most important. There's all types of important issues, but for my life, this is the absolute most important thing I've ever been a part of. And, I'm human first before I'm anything. Then I like to say I'm a woman first, then I'm a Black woman, or I don't know what order I want to put it in, but this is just one of the most important things of my particular life. And being in the vegan movement softened my heart because I've never been a part of a movement before in my entire life. So I never got involved in any causes. When I would see a lot of brutal things happen on TV and brutality, I'd look at it, I'd feel it, and then I'd shut it down and go buy some shoes or go look where I want to go travel and fly off somewhere just to kind of not have to deal with that. And you know how life is, you get backed into a corner and then you have to start dealing with things. But being in this movement really showed me how to be a part of a community that wants to work together for the greater good. And since I've been in this movement, one of the things that was disappointing was the fact that as vegans and animal rights activists, we're inside of human bodies. So why are we afraid to fight for other humans? So, but now the shift, I guess I'm really blown away, and I'm going to say, I can't think of his freaking name right now. The one that played Joker. I can't.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Yes.
I
feel like he gave the white vegan community permission in their hearts, and I'm not trying to sound judgmental. I am judgmental, but I feel like he created the way and said, look, it's okay. We can stand up for the animals. We can stand up for people. And I really appreciate him using his platform to do that, because ever since he did that, I started noticing people were like, okay, but it's just crazy to me, because like I said, we're inside of human bodies. And as we tell people that are not vegan, expand your capacity to love. It's okay to love an animal. We want them to open up their empathy, but we're not showing them how to do it by expressing that amongst each other. But like I said, I'm so happy and so proud of what I'm seeing right now. I'm healing from all of those past transgressions. And I'm so happy to be a part of this community. I really am. So
yeah, it's inspiring, and yet when we come back from break, we're going to dig into the work that really needs to happen, because police brutality, we're not taking it anymore. We got to fight the powers that be. We'll be right back after break. We are back. It's the Elysabeth Alfano Show on WCGO. I have two powerhouse women with me today. I'm so thrilled to have them, Gwenna Hunter and documentary filmmaker Jasmine Leyva. So I want to speak to you, Jasmine. We left off and we said, you got to fight the powers that be. And I would have used the Public Enemy song for this show, but I didn't want Facebook to shut me down, so I didn't use it. But that's the sentiment for today's show. We got to fight the powers that be. So Jasmine, where does the dialogue go from here?
You know what? I think, did you guys read the statement that Ben and Jerry's issued?
Ooh, yes. I have not seen that.
It is powerful. And one thing I love about it is there was a call to action, and it was a very clear, concise list of what they want to see going forward. So I think that's what the dialogue should be. Like, okay, we've shown the problem. What are some solutions? And also, one thing that I've noticed, just taking accountability and just being honest about all sides of this is, I have friends, some of my Black friends who now when they speak, they'll say things along the lines of, how white people are. And, I don't even want to hear that there's no good white people right now. And it saddens me because attaching negative behaviors to an entire group of people, that's why we are where we are. That's the same kind of mentality that just birthed all this hatred. And so now I'm seeing it internalized and acted out by, members of the oppressed. So I would say that's another part of the dialogue we need to open up about. Like, as Black people, we got to make sure that we're healing, and we have to make sure that we're calling out white racist people, and even some Black people who've internalized racist behavior and look down on their own members of their community. So having that conversation, I think, is really important.
Well, I love what you say, how global this is. Even in the dialogue, regardless of skin color, we have to fix the racism, and we have to really address police violence. And there is much racism beyond police violence. Let's be clear about that. But a big part of that problem is solving that issue. But Gwenna, when Jasmine was speaking, I could hear you in the background going, So if you want to chime in, go right ahead.
Because she said, it's interesting. The past 24 hours for me have been a roller coaster. And the reason they've been such a roller coaster, I had to make a couple of decisions. So, okay, I started a group just randomly. A thought went ping, and I'm like, okay, and I just did it. And it's been a very enormous challenge, but I started a group called Vegans for Black Lives Matter. And so this was just the other day, and I invited like 10 people so that we could probably talk about what to put in the group. But then the next morning I woke up and there were like 500 people in the group. I didn't close it or anything. And so now I'm like, telling the mods that I have, like, don't let anybody else in today. I cannot handle any more drama. There's like over 1,000, like 1,300 people in there now, and there's like 300 people waiting to come in.
You know, I got to get in there. Just FYI, you can close it, but after I sneak in.
And I'm an observer, and I'm also a reader of energy and of people. I don't have to even be physically with you. I can just look at your eyes and just observe. And so I'm observing just the conversation, the energy of people. And what I found were the types of people that we had in the group. And just to be clear, the theme that I keep getting downloaded for this group is healing. That's the theme. And so I didn't make that clear in the beginning because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the theme is healing, and not just Black people, but white people as well. It's healing. But what I found was that there are people in the group, one, a lot of white people that have tremendous amounts of guilt and that almost welcome abuse from Black people in a sense, which I find to be incredibly toxic and unnerving. I also find that there are people that, not a lot, but there were, I'm saying were because I had to make some hard decisions, but people that are very angry, that are Black people, and I get it, I totally get it, that are very resentful and that probably have not healed or forgiven, and that want to take that anger out on a white person. That, and you know, we usually attract certain things from one another, and so I just found some really odd behaviors in the group. And then I find that there are people that are just like white people that are just ready for action. They just want to go out there and they want to march and they want to protest, but it's like, slow down. You need to really understand why Black Lives Matter. I need you to watch this video, the Tulsa bombings. I need you to know what happened in Rosewood. I need you to know, you know, what happened 400 years ago, why we were brought to this country and how the wealth was created. So it's like I'm trying to create, and I'm learning things too. So it's like I want to create a type of structure to where people actually know why we're doing this, and not just like people letting out steam and rage and then using the fist and the Black Lives Matter hashtag just to let off some steam because they can't protest and do other things, or other stuff is going on. So yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster. So when Jasmine started saying that, I'm like, oh my God, it was just like, felt like you were sending me bullets. I was just like, oh God.
90 seconds.
Yeah, so it's been amazing and crazy and sad and beautiful.
I love what you say. First of all, Gwenna Hunter, please run for president. I think that's been made clear right here. Yeah, I bet you will. But I love what you say in twofold, in that let's stop and think, because we don't want this to be a social media craze that goes away in a week. So you really want to think. That's why I asked the question, where are we going from here in terms of the dialogue? So I love that there's thought in this group. And I love that you're talking about healing, because healing is that note that gives me hope for the future, because white people need to heal, Black people need to heal. What we do to animals is unthinkable. Our society needs to heal. We're all running around with guns and anxiety and violence and anger. Everyone is angry, and they're angry about everything. And I'm not making light of that. Everyone has a pretty good reason actually to be. I mean, and I don't want to overshadow Black Lives Matter, because we are here to talk about that today, but there's anger out there in society, and a lot of healing needs to take place. So I love that you're giving an opportunity, you know, once you figure out really where you want this Facebook page to go, for people to join in if it's the right thing for them and you, and to heal. So it's a big part of the dialogue. It kills me because on radio you have to go to break. So we are going to hit a break, but we're going to come right back, and we're going to make sure we talk about how this all relates to food. You can't be strong if you're not feeling good. So we'll talk about that right after the break. Oh, we are back. It's the Elysabeth and Alfano show on WCGO. Today we are talking about social injustice and how it ends now, and what we're doing to change that. I have fabulous guests with me, documentary filmmaker Jasmine Leyva of The Invisible Vegan and Gwenna Hunter of Vegans LA. We left before the break saying, okay, where do we go from here? And what are some of the changes that need to take place? I want to kick off with Jasmine. Jasmine, your film, The Invisible Vegan, is all about the unhealthy not just habits, but sort of institutionalized eating patterns, sort of decided by others, if you will, for Black people, that take place and make that community very unhealthy. And a lot of other Americans are also unhealthy for the same reasons. Maybe you can walk us through some of the food issues that the Black community suffers from.
So one thing about it is it's a problem if you don't have fresh produce, fresh, healthy, organic foods in a neighborhood. Like eating healthy, that should be a human right, not a privilege. And a lot of people in certain communities, they don't even know how much privilege they've been robbed of. They don't know that their neighborhood shouldn't be full of fast food restaurants, that there should be nothing but, fast food billboards all over the place. And the people that are in power, they know this because when I go outside, I'll see dialysis centers every few blocks. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a marker that visually shows you have the sickest people, but you have the most fast food restaurants in these communities. So it's almost like you're setting these people up to fail. So my documentary kind of highlights the food deserts and food injustice that keeps people from eating healthy. And then when you have moments like this, you have a global pandemic, and the people who are being hit hardest are the people in these communities because they're not being properly taught, hey, if you want to protect yourself from a virus, you have to eat certain whole foods that have vitamins and minerals to help you fight off the virus.
Yes, and it also is a way of keeping people, because other communities also suffer from very poor nutrition. When you have a population that isn't getting the nutrients that they need, you have a very weakened population. You can't be up to your personal best mentally, physically, just being aware and alert and present when you don't have good food. So it's disconcerting on many levels. And vegans always talk about this a lot. Like, when you go vegan, it's not just the animals that benefit. You're going vegan for your own health and, of course, the planet too. So the idea of fixing what we do 3 times a day is already a step towards feeling better, being in your right mind, having the power that you're supposed to be. Gwenna, as somebody who works with vegan outreach, you might want to tell us maybe what vegan outreach is, and also your thoughts on getting healthier food to a community for it to be strong.
Actually, what I'm going to tell you is going to go hand in hand. So I'm a community events coordinator with Vegan Outreach. And so, as you know, my job was pretty much to go out into the community and go to festivals and different events and things like that. But Corona 2020, and so that shut that down. But through some generosity, we've now been able to create a program called Vegan Food Aid. And so basically what I do here in Los Angeles, and we have people doing it in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Sacramento, in the Bay Area. And I think now they're getting ready to do it in Idaho. We look for different communities and we provide vegan groceries. So once a week, I work with a nonprofit organization and we go to their community every Thursday. I get pasta, spaghetti sauce, and tortillas and certain things like that. And then I have a bunch of produce. We'll have ginger, limes, mangoes, avocado, beets, lettuce, kale, collards, garlic, all types of good stuff. And then we have 2 vegan hot food trucks come out and provide them with 2 different forms of hot food as well. And so these are not vegan communities, but they're being introduced to the vegan hot foods that they really are enjoying. And, one lady lastly, she's like, when I'm eating this stuff, I can't. She's like, it's weird because I'm like, oh my God, there's no meat in this. And so it's like they're reprogramming themselves because I know I grew up thinking that, if you didn't eat meat, you would die, So it was like you think that is a health food and it's not. So, we're not preaching the vegan word. I'm not doing any talks, no conversation. I'm not pushing any conversation on anybody. We're just there to serve and provide. And so it's been probably the best most rewarding work I've ever done since I've been in the vegan movement.
Yeah, it's fantastic because, as we were saying before, you can't have a strong community of mind or of body if you don't have a healthy community. But I
Yeah.
also don't see how you get rid of anger and pain if 3 times a day you're eating something that was tortured, that lived in anguish, that experienced only pain, and all that cortisol running through their body.
Yes.
And then you're literally ingesting it. Who would want to do that and then hope that they're in good health? Some of the things that affect the African American communities, but also the communities where they just don't have good food, is heart disease, cancer, diabetes. We're not saying just like, oh gosh, I'm a little bit slower today. We're talking about things that commit you to a life of pills, which is a very
Yes.
expensive life, by the way. But it's hard to have an effective life when you've got these kind of large scale chronic diseases. And the last thing I'll say on that is also when you have a factory, a slaughterhouse that kills, and it's constant killing, those communities around that slaughterhouse always suffer. The workers suffer from post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, domestic violence, abuse, more crime. Those communities become very violent communities because obviously you're dealing with violence. And those communities, those slaughterhouses are almost always put in communities of color because they know that those communities don't have a voice. So that's why I make the connection between the animal rights and the people rights, because it is bad for both animals, obviously, and people when we commit ourselves to a food system that is all about violence, hatred, and keeping people at their worst and not their best. Let me just switch it over to Jasmine. Jasmine, do you happen to know Dr. Terry Mason and Dr. Kim Williams by chance? Have you ever heard those names?
I met Dr. Kim Williams last November.
Good. So he did this great study on the south side of Chicago with Dr. Terry Mason. I don't know if you've heard of this, where they took the entire church group from the south side of Chicago, which was really used to a diet of fried meat and heavy oil, and they took them for the entire period of Lent to a vegan diet, and then they did all of the medical research to see how their numbers had changed and how everybody felt. And if you don't have access to that study, I'll put you guys in touch. It's a great study.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Okay, you guys. Well, so what do you say to maybe Black folks that haven't thought about a vegan life?
Oh, I have that so easy, because whenever I meet Black people who aren't familiar with veganism, I'm like, hey, watch my film on Amazon Prime.
Of course. And Gwenna, what do you say when people say like, this is, veganism, it's not for me, it's this like foo-foo thing over here? I don't know, maybe you don't get that reaction, but what do you say when people say
I've gotten I don't think there's a reaction. I'll be stunned if I get a reaction I haven't gotten in these 3 years. But when people do say things like, I tried it, it's not for me. Yeah, it is for you. It's for the whole planet. The one you said something, Elysabeth, about, how can they expect to be healthy by taking in cortisol and eating, ingesting death and fear. But that's part of the issue, is the programming is so phenomenal that they don't even know that that's even a thing, that you're taking in cortisol, that the animal was even had violence against them. Most people they shut that part off. To them, it's just like the animal was, chopped up, and they don't even think about that entire part. And so I try to explain that in the most gentle way, but honest way that I possibly can, if I have that opportunity when I'm speaking with people. The spiritual aspects of eating a dead body and consuming someone's butt and arms and legs and thighs and eating their organs and things like that. And when you talk like that, it almost sounds like a ritual, like it's a whole thing. I won't go all into it, but it just, I just try to have as much of an honest conversation as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I love that you say that because we started this conversation by saying it's about healing. It's about healing for Black
Yes.
people, but it's about healing for society as a whole. And this is why I say you start healing from within. Obviously, there's lots of acknowledgement we all need to do to ourselves. How can we be better? Where maybe were we racist and we didn't really see it, or where didn't we stand up when we could have
Yes.
for injustice all over the place, starting right now with Black Lives Matter, but hopefully carrying on to, I'll say, the workers in the slaughterhouse. I'm still amazed that there was not an uprising when workers were sent back to slaughterhouses to work in coronavirus conditions. And then the president said, you will not be protected. And no one stood up. I can't believe it. Yeah. Gwenna?
Elizabeth, I'm the same way because there was a story that I read that broke me down. It was a woman that worked for, I don't know, can I say the meat company?
The thing is, this is killing me. We've got 30 seconds before we go to break. So
right.
If you guys have more time, can you stay with me?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's do the next segment. Usually I do my top 10 tips, but I'm not going to do it this week because I think this is more important. We are going to cut to break here, but when we come back, we've got the fabulous documentary filmmaker Jasmine Leyva, her film, The Invisible Vegan, and we've got Gwenna Hunter, who maybe we'll convince to run for president. She runs Vegans of Los Angeles and works for Vegan Outreach. We'll be right back after the break. We are back. It's the Elysabeth Alfano Show. It's a short end segment, so I want to make sure we get right to it. Right before we went to the break with Jasmine Leyva, documentary filmmaker, and Gwenna Hunter. Gwenna, you were saying there was a story that upset you.
Yes. It was a story with, and I don't know if you answer. Can I say the meat company?
Please don't.
Okay.
You can give the first initial, the first
All right,
letter.
begins with a T.
Okay,
very popular meat company that had ordered their workers that they had allowed to be off work. They had to come back, and it was a Black woman. She was a mother of, I believe, 4 children, I believe. Anyhow, they were sharing the text message that she had sent one of her kids, I guess that was grown, and she said, and she wasn't feeling well, but she said, they're ordering me back to work. I have to go back to work. She ended up dying from COVID. She was one of the first people that was announced that ended up dying from COVID. And I was just like, what planet is this to where this man can order people to go back to work, and then people are standing up for him and saying all this stuff? And I was just like, and I remember I said exactly what you said, like, why aren't they out there marching and protesting? But at the same time, when you have people with their backs up against the wall, the rent is due. You may not have a landlord that gives a damn. You can march and protest all you want, but the rent is due. And so I was so heartbroken by that whole situation.
Me too. This is why I say right now, we all have the opportunity to fight the powers that be. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to run down my top 10 list here. And then at the end, you guys can each give me your one tip if you think I've missed anything. I always end the show with a top 10 tips. This is my top 10 tips, ways that you can make your life an example of social justice. Use your voice. Number 1, we talk about it all the time on this show. You have a divine gift. It's your voice. Use it. Number 2, use your dollars. Everybody wants to hear your voice for sure. And protesters, I love you. But a lot of people care about that almighty dollar, and you have an innate power because of it. Don't give that power away. You see somebody who isn't treating Black people or people of color the right way, you don't support them. You don't give them your dollars. You people who see people who are torturing animals, you don't give them your dollars unless that happens to align with your values. But if it doesn't align with your values, and for the majority of people it doesn't, do not give them your dollars. Start with what you know. If you don't want to be on the street with a protester sign, I hear ya. So start with what you know. You know food. You know food. You do it 3 times a day. Just shift right there. There's a lot of power in changing your purchasing values in what you buy. It does affect those workers in a positive way. It tells companies that they need to change, and it does affect animals. Start with what you love. Number 4, you love food, don't you? Everybody loves food. Start with what you love. Make sure you spend your dollars on the food that speaks to the social justice issues that you care about. You must, when using your voice, advocate for yourself and advocate for others. When we didn't advocate for those workers who were dying and being sent back to work without protection, guess what? The whole communities then were sick, and there were outbreaks everywhere. It affects all of us. We stand up for others and ourselves. When you see suffering of any kind, don't turn away. Number 7, when you see suffering, acknowledge it. It's right there. Acknowledge it. That's the beginning of change. Number 8, start with your life. Start where you can. Your life is the change. Be the change. Start with your life. That might mean at work you say like, hey, I just want to make sure, can I see the hiring policies? I just want to make sure we're all, I understand what's going on here and that I'm a part of something good. I mean, that should be public record. So, just, it doesn't have to be aggressive. We start with our lives and we are the example. And then I think I have to repeat number 9 and number 10, use your voice and use your dollars. I want to repeat that. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left. I'm going to head it to Jasmine. Jasmine, did I forget anything? What would you say is your first tip to letting people have their lives be an example of social justice?
I would say also, you say use your mouth. I would say use your ears. A lot of times people don't listen, and if you don't listen, it's hard to participate in this, in this space in a constructive fashion. Like, is yelling at someone and having a full out argument, is that the best way to contribute? Or is it a thing where you can listen to the person who's talking and actually reflect on what they're saying so you can articulate a better argument when you go out to the protest line? So
I love that. So number 11, but maybe coming in at number 1, listen before you go off the reservation. Gwenna, what's your number 1 tip that people can use their lives as an example of social justice?
Well, I have to echo your number 8 because I'm a huge advocate of starting with yourself. I have this phrase is heal yourself, heal the planet. And it has to start here first, because this is really the only person you can totally change. You can influence others, but you can only really change yourself. And as I was saying before, there's so much healing that we all need to do. And it's got to start within. It's got to start within. And that's being honest with yourself. And that reflects all the other values that you shared in your list as well.
Yes, I love that you say that. And as we talk about fighting the powers that be, don't give away your power. This, looking within and starting within and making these changes, don't discount yourself, folks. Those are major changes, and they have wildly important ripple effects. I think you see this already with Gen Xers and millennials, or Gen Z and millennial. They've decided that the things that don't align with their values, they're not doing, and they have made a large impact, and we all can. This is the beauty, is that at our fingertips, we all can. So we do have about 2 minutes left. Are there any parting words you guys want to leave after this week, Gwenna?
Yeah, and it's just to be kind and patient with one another. This is, I know that I have flared up on people and lost my temper on people for saying certain things. And then I'm like, oh God, that probably wasn't the best way to be an example. But, try to first be kind to yourself, but just try to practice kindness and patience, because we're all learning how to tolerate one another and how to advocate for each other. And so be kind to people, and just, the thing that's going to really transform this thing, I know it sounds corny to some people, but it is love. That really is what it's all about. So, but I know we have a journey to kind of get there, but
I couldn't agree more. Jasmine, what are your parting words?
My parting words is to the animal rights community, my community. I would say, when you take on issues like Black Lives Matter, don't look at it as you parting ways from animal rights. Look at it as a lot of people won't be able to receive animal rights if they're worried about their own lives. So it's a thing where if you help solve that problem, then we can all, we all help each other, and it comes around full circle. It's not trying to take the spotlight away from anyone. We just have to fix a lot.
Yes. I love what you say. It's so true. It is not an either or situation. By healing all of us together, that's when we start to solve all of these societal ills. And let's face it, folks, we have a lot. And if we don't want to continue to live in a violent society, then we're going to have to fix these, starting with ourselves, and then sharing that love, like Gwenna said, with our animal friends, and of course, all of our Black friends and Hispanic friends, with the planet. We share our love with the planet. It's the Elysabeth Alfano Show. I am sharing my love with you. Thank you for being here with me every Sunday, and I will see you next week.